My name is Eleanor O'Brien. I'm an early years team leader and preschool homeroom teacher at Nightby School in Qatar. My professional practice is grounded in the belief that play is the primary vehicle for learning. As Maria Montessori stated, play is the work of the child, and through purposeful play, children naturally investigate, question, and construct their understanding of the world. In this presentation, I will present my Constructivist curriculum model for the early years, designed within the framework of the IBPYP and informed by play-based approaches, including Reggio Emilia and Montessori pedagogy. I will critically examine the theories and principles that underpin my curriculum model before demonstrating how they are translated into practice through inquiry, assessment, purposeful technology integration, and reflective leadership. Throughout, I will draw on examples of my own classroom to show how a constructivist child-centered curriculum can support meaningful learning while ensuring curriculum outcomes are achieved for children aged 2 to 6. Curriculum design is far more than planning activities. It's the intentional organization of learning experiences that support children's holistic development. Within my model, the child remains at the center of every curriculum decision, with learning driven by curiosity, agency, and inquiry. The 6 design principles on the left guide this process, beginning with clear learning objectives and progressing through play-based experiences, intentional pedagogy, ongoing assessment, learner engagement, and meaningful learning outcomes. Rather than following a rigid sequence, these principles form a continuous and responsive cycle. The model on the right demonstrates constructivist theory is translated into practice. Piaget's cognitive constructivism emphasizes learning through active exploration, while Vygotsky highlights the importance of social interaction and scaffolding. Montessori contributes the prepared environment, promoting independent and purposeful choice. Curriculum planning is also informed by Keller's responsive planning model, where assessment, reflection, and evaluation continually shape future learning experiences, ensuring that curriculum evolves alongside children's interests and developmental needs. Together, these theories create a flexible, play-based curriculum that supports inquiry, develops the whole child, and prepares children to become confident, independent, and lifelong learners. Within my curriculum model, learning is both learner-centered and problem-centered. Children are active participants in their learning, investigating meaningful questions through play and inquiry, while developing creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. This approach is underpinned by constructivist theory. Piaget emphasized learning through active exploration, Vygotsky highlighted the importance of collaboration and teacher scaffolding, and Montessori promoted independence through prepared learning environments. For example, children's curiosity about snails can naturally develop into an inquiry where they investigate, question, document, and reflect on their discoveries. Rather than delivering isolated facts, my role is to facilitate learning experiences that build both conceptual understanding and key dispositions such as curiosity, resilience, independence, and problem solving. In this way, play becomes the vehicle through which meaningful learning takes place. The development of my curriculum draws on the work of several influential educational theorists whose ideas collectively support a holistic, play-based, and child-centered approach to learning. Rather than adopting one philosophy, I have combined principles that align with constructivist pedagogy and the IBPYP. Froebel and Dewey emphasized the importance of play and authentic experiences, while Piaget and Vygotsky showed how children construct knowledge through exploration, collaboration, and teacher scaffolding. Although Montessori promotes independence through prepared environments, I balance this with Magaluzzi's collaborative, inquiry-based approach to avoid limiting child-led learning. Finally, Bruner, Tyler, Keller, and Wiggins and McTighe ensure the curriculum remains intentional, responsive, and aligned with meaningful learning outcomes. Together, these complementary theories create a flexible curriculum that supports inquiry, agency, and lifelong learning. The theories explored in the previous slide are translated into practice through a responsive cycle of play and inquiry. At SEK Qatar, curriculum planning begins with children's interests, questions, and experiences rather than predetermined activities. I use these observations to design meaningful provocations that encourage exploration, collaboration, and problem solving while aligning the IBPYP. Assessment is embedded throughout the inquiry using observations, learning stories, and children's work to inform responsive planning. The B inquiry shown here demonstrates how children's curiosity developed into scientific investigation, collaboration, and creative expression, strengthening their understanding of pollination while developing communication, learner agency, and environmental responsibility. The principles explored in the previous slides are sustained through a responsive cycle of planning, assessment, and reflection. Rather than following fixed lesson plans, I adapt learning in response to children's thinking, questions, and emerging interests. Observation and documentation are central to this process. Using photographs, learning stories, conversations, and children's work, I gather authentic evidence to inform assessment for, as, and of learning and plan meaningful next steps. The B inquiry shown here illustrates how documentation made children's thinking visible, informed future provocations, and deepened conceptual understanding. In this way, assessment becomes an integral part of curriculum design, ensuring learning remains responsive, inquiry driven, and child centered. Technology plays a supportive rather than dominant role within my play-based curriculum model. Consistent with the IBPYP and Reggio Emilia philosophy, digital tools enhance planning, assessment, and collaboration while preserving authentic hands-on learning. At my school, ManageBack supports collaboration, curriculum planning, assessment, and online portfolios, ensuring learning remains responsive and aligned with the IB framework. Microsoft OneNote and Teams facilitate shared planning, communication, and professional reflection, while Microsoft Sway strengthens homeschool partnerships by making children's learning visible. Within the classroom, the interactive whiteboard supports routines, visual schedules, and inquiry provocations, complementing rather than replacing active participation. Children's screen time is intentionally limited, with learning centered on play, exploration, and collaboration. Technology is therefore purposefully to document, communicate, and enhance learning, not replace it. Although a play-based inquiry curriculum offers significant benefits, its implementation also presents practical challenges. Children enter the classroom with diverse abilities, experiences, and language needs, so inquiry must be differentiated to ensure each child can participate meaningfully. Another challenge is balancing child-led inquiry with curriculum expectations. While children's interests guide learning, teachers must ensure conceptual understandings and learning outcomes are still achieved. Backward design helps me maintain this balance by aligning inquiry with intended outcomes. Teacher workload is also considerable, particularly in relation to planning, documentation, and assessment. Collaborative planning through ManageBack and OneNote and shared reflection helps distribute responsibilities across the team. Finally, while authentic assessment provides rich evidence of learning, documentation must remain purposeful rather than excessive. This reflection highlights that successful implementation requires flexibility, collaboration, and ongoing professional reflection to create meaningful child-centered learning experiences. Assessment is an integral part of curriculum design within an EY constructivist classroom. Rather than taking place at the end of learning, assessment is continuous, authentic, and used to inform future teaching. The cycle begins with careful observation, where I gather evidence through children's play, conversations, and interactions before documenting their thinking through learning stories, photographs, work samples, and children's work. This evidence is then interpreted to identify children's strengths, interests, and next steps, allowing me to adopt learning experiences and provide appropriate scaffolding. Assessment therefore becomes both a tool for understanding children and for shaping future curriculum decisions. Throughout this process, I draw on assessment for learning, as learning, and of learning to support children's progress, while family partnerships and digital platforms such as Toddle, OneNote, and ManageBack strengthen communication without replacing authentic play experiences. Building on the assessment cycle, this slide illustrates how documentation makes children's learning visible and supports responsive teaching. In a constructivist classroom, documentation is much more than collecting evidence. It helps teachers understand children's thinking, celebrate progress, and plan meaningful next steps. By observing, documenting, interpreting, and responding to children's learning, I can create learning journeys that reflect each child's interests and developmental needs. The examples shown demonstrate how learning can be captured across multiple areas, including literacy, math, fine motor development, social and emotional learning, and the IB approaches to learning. Children's work, photographs, learning stories, and reflections all provide valuable insights into their understanding while encouraging them to revisit and extend their thinking. Ultimately, documentation strengthens partnerships with families and ensuring the curriculum planning remains responsive, personalised, and centred on the whole child. To conclude, this presentation has shown that an effective early years curriculum is not simply a sequence of planned activities, but a responsive framework shaped by children's interests, inquiry, authentic assessment, and reflective practice. Grounded in constructivist theory, it recognizes children as active participants who build knowledge through play, exploration, and collaboration. Based on this analysis, I recommend placing the child at the center of the curriculum design, using inquiry to drive learning, embedding authentic assessment to inform responsive planning, and fostering collaborative practice supported by purposeful technology. Digital tools should enhance documentation, communication, and collaboration, but never replace hands-on learning. Ultimately, meaningful curriculum design is achieved when pedagogy, assessment, and technology work together to support children's agency, inclusion, and lifelong learning. As Lawrence Macalusi reminds us, our responsibility is to create learning environments that value every child's unique way of thinking and learning.